Hello and welcome to It'll Be Alright in the 90s, the podcast that isn't afraid to break boundaries and invent exciting new podcast formats, especially when it becomes increasingly clear that we're running out of ideas. I'm your host, Alex Greenwood, and joining me is my co-host, Stu Jocelyn. How are you, Stu?
Hello, mate. Yeah, pleased to be back and looking forward to kicking off this new strand of the podcast with one of our favourite guests. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So, as we referred to there, we are trying out a new format for the pod, and we are welcoming Teresa Stenson back to help us out with that, but we'll get onto that shortly. But before that, we are recording today's episode at our usual dinner time slot, aren't we, Stu? So today's episode is perfect as we are sponsored by Chicken Tonight. Head down to your local branch of either Gateway, Summerfield or Safeway and quote the code ALLRIGHT90s to get 10% off a jar of Chicken Tonight. Whether that's country French chicken or Spanish chicken, that is a great offer courtesy of It'll Be Alright in the 90s and today's sponsors, Chicken Tonight.
That's a fantastic offer. Do you feel like chicken tonight?
You know what, I think I do.
Yeah. Well, that's handy then.
Just some trivia regarding Chicken Tonight. Do you know of any link between Chicken Tonight and your and my favourite 90s comedy programme?
Oh, well, there are two things. First of all, I think Ian Wright was in the advertising for them, I think, is one of the things. And the other thing is that the Simpsons are all around the dinner table and then just start singing the jingle.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Point.
Yeah. I had not remembered this at all. When I was in negotiations with Chicken Tonight about coming on as sponsors, I read that there was this Simpsons episode where they all start singing the theme tune, and I didn't remember it at all, so I thought, oh, that's probably like something from Series 21 or something that I don't watch, but it's actually from Series 5, the Golden Era.
Doesn't this family know any songs that aren't commercials? I feel like chicken tonight, like chicken tonight, like chicken tonight.
Time now for the bulletin board, and I'll start with something here from Legend of the Pod, brother of the pod, Adam, who says on Facebook, relating to your school bag correspondence, I'm fairly sure I still have a bad back from carting an extremely heavy backpack around on only one shoulder because it was considered uncool to carry it with both straps. 2 straps was up there with white fang and ankle swingers as an insult in those days. I think this was something we must have touched upon in our secondary school episode with brother of the pod Adam. Ankle swingers, do you remember ankle swingers?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. But 2 straps is not something I'd come across. That must have all but died out before I joined, I think, because there was no level of coolness attached to whether you carried your school bag with 1 strap or 2 by the time I got there, which is good because that would have been one more thing to battle against.
Yeah, very lucky. It was really in full force, the 2 strap insult when I was there. So I'm glad it had died out because, as Adam says, as you say, the weight we had to carry around in those days was off the scale. Maybe it's still the same, I don't know, but it's probably just a laptop now, isn't it? So everything is on that, I imagine. Ankle swingers was not in our generation, so that must have skipped a generation with us and gone straight from my brother to you. Is that just for having trousers that were a bit loose around the ankle?
Trousers that are slightly too short, I think, is probably
yes.
if you've outgrown them slightly. Yeah. And there's although it's because there's all the rage these days for a bit of white sock to be on show, isn't it? So
yes,
everything has its day, and then it goes away again, and then it has its day again.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I'm yet to see anyone white fanging around town, but that is possibly on the cards sometime soon. So if you want to get ahead of that curve, get out there now with your shirt collar over your blazer or your jumper collar. And another thing here from Adam, just a potential topic of conversation for our listeners to get involved with. He says, I wonder if you could do a thing for the podcast where people send you their 90s tips or hacks. So the thing that made me think of this was being at my friend Ian's house when he had an Argos catalogue and he was breaking the spine on it so it would fall open on the page of the hi-fi he wanted for his birthday, which is a clever little 90s hack. Do you have any thoughts on that, Stu?
Not really. I mean, my tactic was to leave the catalogue strategically lying around with things ringed in biro or having been highlighted as a little indicator as to what I might want for my birthday or Christmas. But that is excellent. That's far more subtle. And I really do appreciate the thought that's gone into that.
Very clever. Yeah, so if you're listening and you have any thoughts about that, anything that comes flooding back regarding tips for getting your parents to buy you certain things for your Christmas or your birthday presents or anything else. It doesn't have to be about presents. It could be any sort of tip or hack from the 90s. Do let us know, because that could be quite an interesting topic of conversation. Stu, what have you got over there?
I've got some correspondence from Legend of the Pod, my dad, Glyn Joslin. He says, "Hi, Alex and Stu. Great pod as usual. I also have an unopened item from the 90s. So this comes back to the Sunkiss can, I think, which was obviously in an open state.
Yeah.
But we asked for any unopened items from the 90s. It's a bottle of Christmas ale from 1996, which is brewed in Holland, best before end, November 1997. As Stu knows, I probably have got more hiding in the garage. I actually think there's probably more hiding in the kitchen cupboards, knowing them, let alone the garage. But yeah, there it is. There's a picture here of the 1996 Christmas ale. And I wonder if this year, 29 years later, might be the Christmas that we finally crack it open and share it on Christmas Day. I'll have to have a word with him about that. But yeah, there we go. So our record stands at 29 years for an unopened item. If anybody's got anything out there that they can beat that with, then do let us know. But that is a strong opening gambit, I think, on that topic.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I had a friend who had a bottle of Budweiser that was out of date by many years. It wasn't it wasn't as far back as the 90s, but it was many years out of date, and we did crack it open and try it, and it tasted like a stout. It was quite nice, actually. So I can't imagine what your Christmas ale is going to taste like.
Was everybody well afterwards? This is what I'm interested in. Were there any after effects?
I think it was... I can't remember, to be honest, so maybe not. I have another message in the mailbag. Just a quick thing. This is from Legend of the Pod, Hannah Kelly. A couple of things here. She says, when thinking of the most 90s ice cream, I straight away thought about the Screwball, as I ate loads of those during the 90s, but having looked it up, it seems to have become first available in the 1970s. So, can you count that? I don't know if I've ever had a Screwball. Have you had a Screwball?
Is that the one that comes in like the sort of conical plastic... what's the word I'm looking for? Cone, I suppose.
Yes.
Packaging. Yeah. In that case, if it is, then that was a staple of the Caution Primary School hot dinners dessert scene. So yes, I think I've had many a Screwball.
Yeah, I'll be interested to know if that's definitely what it is. And the next thing here from Hannah is some clarification regarding the pasties on the floor story from the
right.
previous correspondence. She says, my teacher knew that the pasties had fallen on the floor. Actually, just give some background to people who didn't listen to this episode. Hannah basically messaged it in to say that she had, in a food tech lesson, she had made some pasties and they had to be judged by the teacher, as is common with food tech classes, and the pasties had ended up on the floor and the teacher had eaten them off the floor because they needed to judge them. And we were questioning whether the teacher knew they'd been on the floor. And this is the clarification. My teacher knew the pasties had fallen on the floor. I don't think I was penalised for it, though. In case you're interested, they were my own flavour creation of sweet and sour chicken pasties, and they were delicious, if I do say so myself. So, there you go. The teacher did know, and the pasties were delicious.
Okay, well that's good closure. Any chance of having some of these whipped up in this day and age, do we think? Can we have some of them sent through? And we can give them a taste test, maybe live on the pod at some point?
That's the sort of thing you'd get in old radio shows, wouldn't it? People would send in cakes and stuff, like all that test match special stuff. We never get any food sent in, do we?
No, that's true, but this is something that I'd like to change. I'd like to buck that trend. So, yeah, Hannah, if you could oblige, please, that'd be fantastic. You're now officially on the hook for that.
If anyone wants to know our mailing address to send us any food, just get in touch with us on our Instagram or send us an email and we'll let you know. We're not going to read it out live because we'll get all sorts of junk, I'm sure, from who knows what.
Yeah, since we had to give up the PO box, it's been a bit of a nightmare, hasn't it? So yeah, we're keeping things close to our chest. But if you do genuinely have something to send us, then get in touch and we will, of course, let you know.
Yeah, it was a real shame about that PO box, wasn't it? The final thing I've got here is just a reminder that some people may already have seen this. And the final thing on the bulletin board from me is just a reminder that for anyone who hasn't already seen, we have been producing some redux versions of some of our old episodes. This is thanks to Legend of the Pod Adam Greenwood, who provided some technical assistance on this. So I'm not sure if both episodes are up now or maybe there's more, but we have so far posted the liver run episode of Police Camera Action, which we did. I think it was our second ever episode. We did a watch along of that. I have now re-uploaded it to YouTube with the video in question of the episode, as in the police camera action episode, so you can watch along, listen to us talking about it, and see the actual episode unfold before your eyes. And it's well worth it. It was 4 years ago now, and it was, I still think, one of our best episodes, so it's well worth going to watch. And we will be doing the same thing with a 999 watch along that we did a few episodes later, and maybe some more in the future. So keep an eye on our YouTube channel for some better versions of old episodes.
Why have we chosen the emergency services watch-alongs to start with? There seems to be a bit of a correlation there.
Yeah.
Was that an editorial decision by Jeff, or...?
Yeah, he's trying to tell us something, I think, isn't he?
I think he might be.
I bet there's lots of emergency service people, lots of police officers down at the lodge, aren't there?
Well, maybe PC Crossland's been in touch. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
That's true, yeah. Just a quick note to say that if you haven't already done our quiz and submitted your scores, please do so as soon as possible, because we will be reading out the results on our next episode, so you only have a couple of weeks left. So, yes, get on that. There'll be a link in our link tree to all our previous episodes, so you can find it there. So get on and have a go. We've had some scores in already, and it's looking quite tight. So, maybe there's a chance that you can win it. So, yeah, let us know.
Well, are we still awaiting Mark from Glasgow's results at this point?
As we go to record, yes, we are still waiting for Mark's scores. So everyone has a much better chance at this point.
One more thing on the bulletin board from me is that my second pod birthday present arrived in the post the day after we recorded the last episode. So I have it here, and it's a little extra birthday gift to me. And Alex, I'm very, very grateful for this. I've been waiting to open it. It's very well packaged, so it might take me a little while to get into it, but if, with your permission, I'll get into it and see what we've got here. If
Absolutely,
that's okay?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Everything you send me is always so well packaged, and then I have to spend valuable seconds. Here we go. It's a book. It's by John Robb, and it's called The 90s. What the f*** was that all about? The music, the culture, the people, the decade. Frontline account. Now, I have actually read John Robb's other book here, which is quoted on the front, The Stone Roses and the Resurrection of British Pop. I've already read that. So this is perfect. I will enjoy this very much. Thank you so much, mate. That's very kind of you.
You're welcome. Maybe we can have a little review when you have finished it, an on-air review, and let us know what it's like and whether people should go out there and find their own copies.
Very much. I've just opened a page at random. Chapter 42, Pete Waterman, Pop Genius. This is going to go down very well indeed.
Due to my ineptitude, there will be no What's the Most 90s this time, because I completely forgot to prepare for that, so apologies for that.
We've only done it every episode for 4 years, but don't worry about it, it's fine.
Yeah. In place of that, we will do, I think, another quick quiz for Stu after his pretty poor showing a few episodes ago, and I know he wants to redeem himself, so let's bust out the 3 categories and see how he does this time.
Definitely, yeah. I was poor in the last time we did this, and then I was poor in our 90s quiz as well for our birthday on the questions that you set, so I'm really hoping that I can turn the corner here and get a positive result.
Right, so I'm going to start, Stu, with the film round.
Well, no, always films. I'm terrible on 90s films, you know that.
Well, let's get the difficult one out of the way first.
Okay.
Now, this relates to a film that I saw for the first time quite recently, but I can't remember if you've seen it, Stu. In My Girl, what profession is Vader's father? Probably not Vader. It's not Darth Vader. Wasn't in My Girl, was he?
There's only one thing I know about My Girl, and that is that he dies his death by a bee sting at the end.
Yeah.
I will have an educated guess at Doctor.
I thought you were going to say beekeeper.
Oh, if it's beekeeper, I'm walking out right now. That's it.
It's not. People will be shouting this at their stereos. It is a funeral director. So
Okay.
Probably came in handy a bit later, I imagine.
Right. We're going well.
Yes. Right, let's go on to fashion and trends. See if Nelson Mandela comes up again like last time. Well, this one might be a bit easy because it actually came up in our quiz from a few episodes ago.
Okay, good. I'll take it, please.
What was the name of the comet that passed the sun in 1997, the first time in 4,200 years?
Halley-Bopp?
It was, yes. Halley-Bopp
Yes,
or Hale-Bopp.
we're in.
1 out of 2. And then finally, we're going to end on what I assume is your best round, music. Oh, I think he's got an absolute dolly here.
Oh.
Nick Carter and AJ McLean were members of which boy band?
I'm not even. I'm tempted to mess around here, but I know I can't. It's the Backstreet Boys.
Correct. It
and
is.
I will have a 2 out of 3 return on that. Thank you very much.
Excellent work. Excellent. 66% there, Stu. You're back on track there, I think.
If anybody's keeping track of my percentages, then well, no, I'll tell you what. Why don't we start from here? Why don't we say that my average is 66% at the moment, and then we'll go from this moment on, okay? And
Okay,
we'll have a fresh start. We'll forget about everything else because we don't need to think about that, do we?
Today is an exciting day for the pod as we're launching a new strand for the show, which we're calling 90s Time Capsule. That title is subject to change if we think of a better one in the meantime, but that's what it is today. For these episodes, we will be inviting a guest to join us and pick 5 things they'd like to bring back from the 90s and 1 thing from the decade that they're happy to leave firmly in the past. Who better to welcome as our first guest for the 90s Time Capsule than friend and official teenage diarist of the pod, creator of My Teenage Diaries and maker of some of England's greatest zines, it's Teresa Stenson. Teresa, thanks for joining us today and helping us to establish whether this podcast format will actually work or not. How are you doing?
Hello. Hi, you guys. Thank you. What an honour to be the first of this new strand.
Let's hope it works. I'm sure it will. It seems pretty bulletproof to me, which is possibly hubris.
This is before we've tried it, so anything could happen.
I found, like, when I was trying to think of my things that I want to talk about, that I want to bring back, that it was quite difficult because there's things that that you're interested in or that you find interesting about the decade, but do you want to bring them back or not and swap them for the version that you've got now is kind of not always as clear cut. So I found it like quite an interesting question to sort of be thinking about. But yeah, we'll chat along and see how we go.
As I say, 5 things that Teresa wants to bring back and then 1 thing that she wants to leave back in history. Let's start with the first of your things then, Teresa.
Okay, so the first thing I want to bring back is handwritten notes and letters. And in particular, the ones that you write to people who you see often. So obviously, like, you might write a letter to a pen pal or to, if you're me, to like a famous person in your diary. And I really loved writing letters when I was younger, as you guys will know. But the one area that I think is kind of that we've lost is like the art of just writing something small or just something a little bit just to communicate with somebody that you maybe see on a regular basis, but writing a note or a letter to them is a kind of nice way to have that communication.
Yeah, definitely. I had a pen pal through secondary school. Yeah, I remember writing handwritten notes to them. Actually, I suppose every note was handwritten back then, wasn't it? It wasn't just pen pals and grandparents. I think of writing thank you letters to grandparents if they'd given me some Christmas money or birthday money. It's just way more personal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like the area that I was particularly interested in, and probably obviously relating it to the Teenage Diaries, is at school we kind of had this sort of tradition going where we would probably, it was more of a like, I don't want to typecast, but it might have been more like a girl thing, like we used to write to each other, even if we saw each other daily, we would like write notes, and sometimes that could be like part of a back and forth correspondence where you might write to a friend, pass it to them in the morning, and then they'd maybe write to you that evening and pass you a note back. Even though you were seeing them and talking to them throughout the day, it was kind of like an extra layer of communication or something. So there's like those kind of letters, and then there's the ones that were more like just to tell you something really important and urgent and private that needed to kind of be said in a sort of confidential, classified kind of way through a handwritten note. So I've got like 2 examples that I want to share with you. One of a kind of back and forth correspondence with a friend, and another one that's like one of those private, urgent, need to tell you something immediately via a handwritten note.
Oh, yes, please.
Fantastic. Yes.
I've got like a biscuit tin with these in, and that's what I was looking through to find something to share with you. And you'll be happy to know that the biscuit tin has got a best before date on it, which I was really happy to see. And it's 1993.
Oh, fantastic.
Right.
Real vintage.
So obviously,
yes,
I'll
lovely.
take a photograph and share that with you. And then Rover is the brand of the biscuit, which I don't know if they're still going, but it kind of looks like, a bit like Family Circle, the kind of a variety of different biscuits.
I can picture
tin.
the tin. I can picture the tin. Is it red?
Yes.
And yeah.
Red
and Rover is
red
in.
and orange. This first one, this is from 1992. This is when I was 11, probably, and the girl who sent me the letter was 11. So really early stuff. And all I want to say before I start to read it is something happens about halfway through this letter. There's a change. It starts off in a quite innocuous way, and then there's something surprising happens, which when I found this a couple of days ago, I was really surprised about and I've got no memory of. So see if you can spot it, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Dear Teresa, I can't wait to go to the Dome as well on Saturday. And there she means Doncaster Dome, which is a huge leisure centre. Yes, I'm also going to the Youthy, which is a youth club, on Friday night. So you will come to my house on Saturday morning at 10:30. So you will set off from your house at 10:15. I will wait for you at the front of our gate. It's 6:31 now. On the TV is Blockbuster, which is probably Blockbusters, the quiz game show. It is boring. The white team have just won one. If you still want to kill Adam, I will help you, as I said in the other letter. It was shocking for me as well as you. No, I didn't know the latest gossip, but I know from a letter that you gave to me. So yes, I think they were using them as well, don't you, Teresa? I want to be your best friend. So it goes on a bit more after that. I have no memory of Adam. May have changed his name though. But the actual person in this letter, I don't remember who that was or why I wanted to kill him, and why this girl who's written to me, who we'll call Kelly, has decided that she wants to lend a hand. It's all a bit Heather's, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I'm not in touch with her anymore, but imagine if she's got the other letter. Like, it would be brilliant to know how it started, but I don't know.
It's
Well.
yeah. There's three things that alarm me about her message, I suppose. One is the fact that she's happy to help you kill someone. The ending of I want to be your best friend or something like that?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, not that that's alarming, but to end a message like that after saying you're happy to help someone kill someone, but then also the very accurate and precise timings for the meetings, it all has a little bit of sort of professional hit person energy about it, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. But I could be very like that when I was a kid as well. I used to like write in my diaries about what precise time it was and stuff. So maybe we were obviously a bit of a duo in the making. But
I remember well your plans for the Christmas morning, where you'd sketched out everything that was going to happen on the Christmas morning. So yes, of course. Did you get to the Dome though, and the Youthy? If we can tie this off,
we definitely would have got to the Dome.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, because we probably did a skate and a swim sort of combo. Because there's an ice skating rink and a really great swimming area. You could get a ticket for both. Yeah.
Classic.
Wow.
Okay, so we'll leave that one and hope. Yeah. Anyway.
That seems like the sort of letter that needs to be kept for maybe future evidence, doesn't it?
I know. Yeah. Why am I reading it out in public? It's very incriminating.
It'll turn up on a Netflix documentary in 10 years, so we might as well.
Yeah.
Might as well bring it out now.
It was so lovely of her to say that she'd help me, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Friends stick together.
If you still want to kill him, I will help you. Yeah. Okay, so that was, as you could tell, that was part of a to and fro of correspondence, because she was replying to things I'd said and so on. This next example is one of those that was just like, okay, somebody needs to tell you something. And this is, I'm just holding it up for the camera. This says, Teresa, go upstairs and read this. Okay, so that would have been put through my front door by Laura, who lived on my street, who was one of my best friends. And go upstairs and read this, just means like, don't read it in front of your parents or your family. Like, this is super private. This is really, really sacred stuff. So I would have gone upstairs to read it. And this is how this letter begins. Teresa, I haven't slept. I now know I'm in love. My feelings for Declan are getting stronger. I'll miss him so much. So I think she was going on holiday, and that's probably why the letter was put through my door.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared while I'm away that Louise will have her way and get Declan to go out with her. I'm really scared. I'm going to miss out on all the fun. I'm really in love with Declan. Please don't show this to anyone. Love, Laura. And I have got Laura's permission to read this out, and she thought that she'd forgotten about this particular letter, but obviously knows about this scenario. But she thought it was, she was really happy to have that brought back up, and she gave me permission to use her name. But I've changed the other names in there. And then what's kind of fun about that letter is obviously its seriousness, but please don't show it to anyone, and don't tell anyone. But then all over the back of the envelope, it says, I love Declan, like 3 or 4 different times. And there's also just an extra piece of paper which just says Laura loves Declan on it. So it's
just to really hammer the point home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I hadn't got it, yeah. But it's great, isn't it? I haven't slept. I now know I am in love. So
and they've been married for 25 years.
No, sadly, it was never to be for Laura and Declan. But that was from 1995, so Laura was about 13 there, I think. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh wow, that's huge! Thank you for bringing that on. It does feel like we've had an exclusive on the podcast. It really does.
It does, yeah.
I'm just thinking back to my own pen pal, and I struck up a writing correspondence with a girl called Katie, who used to come to Corsham in the summer holidays to stay with her grandparents, who lived down the road from me, and we came across each other in the park one summer holiday, and hung around together for the rest of the holiday. And then she lived in it sounded impossibly exotic at the time, Walthamstow, East London, of course. She had an E17 postcode, everybody.
Oh,
yeah.
It was an E17. I remember that when I was writing it on the envelopes. And we are still, I'm pleased to say, Facebook friends today. And I think we were at the same Red Hot Chili Peppers gig a couple of years ago. Down at the London Stadium, but we didn't bump into each other. I would have loved that after all these years to have said hello. But so Katie, if you're listening, get in touch. And precious memories.
Oh, nice. Would you have ever done this kind of like writing notes to other people at school thing? Do you think, was that ever part of your...
Not like this, really. I mean, there was, of course, passing notes in class, which is a variation on a theme, I suppose. And one of the biggest things that I could recall from that was that somebody once got hold of, it might have been A0. It wasn't A1. It was even bigger than that. And that became the note that got passed around everywhere. But it was all folded up. But, of course, there was so much surface area that you could fit loads of stuff on there. And I think I did a very straight-laced thing. And one time it came to me and I wasn't interested, and I got up and put it in the bin. And then I got a bit of a harsh telling off from my friends for that, just because I get this note out of my face, or something. And it did get resurrected, and it carried on after that, but it never came back to me again because I'd been so I've been so boring about it. So not very subtle. Teachers would notice it all the time, but it persisted for a little while.
Love the idea of you unfolding this massive thing at the back of the class, hoping the teacher doesn't see.
Well, I guess it must have been folded and refolded on a clean bit, and then when it got full, that would happen again. Yeah, I can't really remember the sort of logistics of it now, the technicalities of passing around a note on an A0 piece of paper, but it definitely happened.
Right, what's your second choice, Teresa?
My second choice is sort of the technology of okay, that's obviously a huge thing to say, the technology of the 90s. It's not that. It's the kind of, I guess, like the early internet and the early versions of mobile phones. And I guess it's like more about the excitement and the world expansion or the expanding world that kind of brought into our lives before I think everything went a bit kind of the other way and we got lost our privacy and got too distracted by social media and so on. And it was just this kind of time of oh my God, the world and communication is opening up in a totally new way. Yeah, do you get what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So the thing that I was thinking about when you were giving us your second choice there is the fact that all of this technology was emerging, as you say, basic mobile phones, internet coming through. But I feel like there was also still an option then of being able to get away from said things. Mm-hmm. So, you could switch your Nokia 3210 off. Or I remember losing my mobile phone for a week when I was about 12 or 13, and it didn't affect anything at all in my life. And the same with the internet and social media, is that it wasn't a complete drain on everything, and it wasn't an absolute necessity to have it, but you could still use it for business or for personal or whatever, but it wasn't such an all-consuming thing. And that was really what I took from what you said there, is going back to that time of having a little bit of freedom from everything as well, and not having to have it glued to your side all the time was what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I agree with those sentiments. It was an exciting time because it was about 96, I think, when we first got the internet in our house, because I distinctly remember being introduced or discovering a website that just had Simpsons pictures on it. That's all it was, just galleries of Simpsons characters, and that being like just amazing, and printing some of them out, I think, and bringing them into school to show my friend Matt Cox, who was also really into Simpsons at that point, being able to get access to stuff where before it was just, hopefully there'd be a magazine that would have something about the Simpsons in it, or we're just watching it on a Friday night at 6 o'clock. That was it. There was nothing else. So yeah, that was that sort of expansion of the possibility connected to hobbies and things I was interested in was really exciting, I think.
Oh yeah, so I think like one of the reasons why I thought this would be fun to talk about or just interesting to look at is that I was having a coffee with my friend Ruth, and we were talking about like the early internet and kind of getting your first email address and how exciting that was. So yeah, she was getting her first email address, and she tried to get her full name, like Ruth, and then her surname, but it was taken. So she thought that she would take it upon herself to email the person with that email address and just send them a note and say, "Hi, I'm also called Ruth, da, da, da. And I just think it's cool we've got the same name because it's an unusual surname, and just wanted to say hello." And then this person messaged back, and they were, I think, living in America, and they had a bit of to and fro, like a bit of back and forth emailing, but not for too long, I don't think. But I just thought that was a really lovely kind of way to encapsulate what that early vibe was, of like reaching out and connecting with people and not being too wary, I guess, of doing that as well, which I think we might be now, a little bit more kind of protective of our privacy. But I just thought that was a nice, curious and kind of well-meaning and lovely thing to do.
Yeah, that's really nice. I think that is what people thought the internet was going to be like. People having nice chats with strangers and getting to know people and having pen pals, and yeah, all very innocent and simple, but
you're just like kind of just so exciting having email in the first place and being able to like for free send these like long long messages, because I think like, I'm thinking of like around like 98, 99, when if you had a mobile phone, it only stored like 10 text messages at the most, and you had to kind of like choose like which messages you wanted to keep. And I remember like writing some down because I had to delete them, but I wanted to keep the sentiment of them. So it kind of felt like you had this like precious 10 slots. So when you could email and be back and forth and having like these really easy, long flowing messages with like, because I went to university in 1999, so that was the way how we kind of kept in touch with old friends from school and stuff at first. So
yeah, and the fact that you had to spend 10p to send a text message, I think made people really think about what they were writing, and maybe they were a bit more valued as forms of communication.
I've just thought about something that I haven't thought about for many, many years, and it sort of links into the story from Ruth there. But I must have been, again, 11 or 12, and on a website, and I think I was reading a review of, it must have been, I think, the Stereophonics album Just Enough Education to Perform, the one with Mr. Writer and Have a Nice Day on it. And it might have been Amazon, but I was reading the reviews of it, and people's email addresses were next to the reviews that they'd left. And one of the reviews had been left by somebody called Nick Tiley. Now, there was a Nick Tiley at the time who played in midfield for Chippenham Town, who we used to go and watch every week. So I took this address and I emailed it and said, "Oh, hi, is this the same Nick Tiley, blah, 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 who plays for Chippenham Town?" And he replied saying, "No, I'm not, unfortunately, but thanks for getting in touch, and here are some more albums you should listen to." And he sent me like four or five other albums that had come out that year that I should listen to. I remember that. So the other Nick Tiley, the one who didn't play for Chippenham Town, wherever you are, thanks for that.
Yeah, I mean, but the fact that it could have been like that, I think that's the thing. It was a bit of a leveler, wasn't it? Like the internet, because they suddenly, more so when social media and like, especially like MySpace, like we're talking a different decade now, but that was like that you could message like somebody in a band that you liked, or an actor or whatever, just somebody who would have been out of reach, suddenly became in reach in some way, a more tangible way than ever really before. Okay, so my next choice is, event television, which really by that I just mean those programs that were kind of really embedded in the culture, and that if you didn't watch them, you might feel like you're missing out. And if you did watch them, they were kind of like a way of bonding in the playground or at school or just with your co-workers or whatever stage you were at in the 90s, because everybody watched them and they kind of were quite integral to the culture again, I think. So the first program that springs to mind when I think of that is probably like The Big Breakfast, because that was so 90s, and then probably TFI Friday as well, because that again was just so different to anything else. The other one is You've Been Framed, because that was just such like a big deal at my school, like primary school in the early 90s, was like you watched You've Been Framed on Sunday night, you went in the next day, and you just kind of like remembered all of the great videos that you'd seen of people skiing, someone skiing into a tree, someone dropping a birthday cake, like somebody on slippy mud, or like whatever. Like they were all the tropes of all the kind of like the favourites that people were sending in, and the kind of big like camcorder boom of that era, like, families that were able to film in that way. That's like now it just seems kind of, well, it's just so ubiquitous, and that's just how we exist now, filming everything. But back then it just felt like, oh, you're getting like a window into other people's lives and realities, so it kind of felt quite exciting. And I don't know if there's anything else like that on at the time which kind of had that sort of did the same thing as that. So yeah, you guys tell me what you make of that or remember of those things.
Well, for me, the first show I can really remember that had that effect on me, and I don't know if it happened for you guys or in school or anything else, but it was actually Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Yes.
The buzz around that was absolutely huge, and then the night when the big prize first went was absolute appointment. I mean, I can remember sitting and watching it. It was absolute appointment television. And that's the first one that I can really remember it happening with. And then, of course, once it had been done, then there was no real big buzz around anybody else doing it. I think there were about 4 or 5 people who won the prize in the end in the original run with Chris Tarrant. And it once it had been done, that was it. It wasn't as big news again. But I also remember that the first winner, she went on to be on Eggheads, didn't she? I think the first winner of the million. The night that went out, it was scheduled against the final episode of One Foot in the Grave, where Victor Meldrew is killed in the hit and run. Sorry, the spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it, but so I remember that being a big thing in the press as well, that there were these two huge sort of TV shows going up against each other in the ratings at a time when, well, I suppose most people would have had VCRs by then, by sort of 1999, or I think it was about 1999 when this happened. But yeah, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is the first one really that I can remember thinking, right, got to watch this because somebody might win $1 million, or they have won the $1 million, and we have to see it happen. So yeah, that was what I thought.
Yeah, because it just felt like so accessible as well, because it was just like ordinary people going on TV, and I kind of felt sorry for the because they'd have like 10 people at the beginning, wouldn't they? And they had to do the fastest finger first thing. So that's all these people who just didn't get on and were so close. That must have been like going all the way to the studio and kind of being a part of it, and then not getting to kind of sit in the seat must have been pretty awful.
Was it like Deal or No Deal? Did you stay there until you did get on?
Oh,
or
I bet. I don't know for sure. I know that's what they do with Deal or do whatever with Deal or No Deal. Is that they kind of keep them, don't they, in like a back room cupboard? No, I'm just kidding. But
I just wonder how they get all the time off to do it. I'm sorry, I need half the year off. I need to go on Deal or No Deal and wait until I get picked.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the big event TV that I remember was EastEnders. There was a period in the 90s where I was watching it with my family, probably mid to the end of the decade, I think. So stuff with Tiffany and Grant and Phil. Phil and Grant going over into the canal in their red Astra
As we've
estate,
discussed.
I think. Yes. Those sort of things where, you know, they'd be talked about in the Radio Times or what's on TV or TV Times. And so you would know when something was coming up. And also just storylines would be building up to it. And obviously Christmas episodes were always and still are really big in Soapland. So I think they were the big ones I think of. And for my friendship group in particular, I think The Simpsons and Robot Wars on those Friday evenings, like they were big. Like everyone was waiting to find out what would happen with them. And I remember being at primary school as well and talking to my friend Richard. We would always watch Red Dwarf. I think that's the earliest memory I have of coming into school the next day and talking about something that we'd watched the night before. And I guess we were just about old enough to watch Red Dwarf, but yeah, that's my earliest memory of events TV, at least amongst the social group.
It's slightly outside the 90s, and I heard this story on another podcast last week, but I think it bears repeating. So I think the biggest EastEnders storyline of the late 90s, early 2000s was Who Shot Phil Mitchell, if you remember that. And I did hear on this other podcast, it's Let's Be Having You. It's the follow-up to Quickly, Kevin. It's the fine Let's Be Having You podcast. The Liverpool versus Barcelona UEFA Cup final or semi-final, I can't remember which, but it was delayed. The kickoff was delayed so that people in the UK could watch and find out who shot Phil Mitchell before then the match kicking off, because they were both on the BBC, and the BBC struck this deal with UEFA to say, can we have kickoff delayed because this needs to happen first. So just something that I heard last week that I thought was worth dropping in here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, wow.
That is wild. I can't believe that.
Yeah, the big EastEnders one back in my childhood was Angie and Den. They might have been a little bit before. I don't know your memory, but I think Den served Angie divorce papers on Christmas Day, and that was like, I think that was like the biggest. I think it was that way around, or was it Angie serving Den? I don't know.
I think Den served Angie.
Yeah, and wasn't that like the biggest sort of viewing figures for a very long time, I think, for a TV show?
I think it might still be, you know. It's right up there, because I guess it's so much harder now, isn't it? Because there's so much choice. Everything is spread out amongst all the different channels. So it might still be, but yeah, that's a massive one.
Yeah.
Happy Christmas, Ange.
So it was Den serving Angie. Yeah.
Man of a thousand voices. What can I say?
For anyone listening, that was Stu doing that impression. That wasn't a clip. That wasn't an audio clip we inserted there. That was Stu.
Leslie Grantham didn't just drop in. I mean, not that he could, but he didn't just drop in.
Did he die?
Yeah, I think so.
Fell in a canal, I think, didn't he?
Oh. Cackling away, Stu.
Sorry, it was fell in the canal. That was good.
That's.
I'm not happy that Leslie Grantham died.
Is that how Den died?
That's how Den went. Yeah,
I didn't get that. Right? I just thought you were just
Your estimation of me went right down just in that moment, didn't it?
Yeah.
Move on, Alex. Move on quickly.
In order to break up the positive stuff and to not end on a downer, let's do the thing you want to leave in the 90s now, so we can come back to the positive stuff and get this out of the way. So what is the one thing you are happy to leave back in the 90s?
Okay, diet culture would be like the short form of what I want to leave behind. But I'd say probably more specifically, it would be my own insecurities or obsessions around food and weight and so on that were fueled by or bred, made worse by the diet culture of the 90s, which was following on from stuff from the 80s and 70s and so on. And now, the time that we're in now, there's still a lot of it around. But I think because that's when I was a teenager, that's kind of quite specific to me, would just be the kind of absolute like celebration of thinness, the sort of whole thing about heroin chic, which is probably a term you would have heard of, but the idea of just really going for it with like thinner is better. And that was just the message that everybody had. And obviously that was probably more, the thin being better would be more tailored to women. There's obviously stuff around like what I'm sure you guys would have felt as well, like around like how men should look, in a sort of like, my other half always mentions like He-Man being kind of like a thing, which was, even though it's a cartoon, it was still, if that was, they were the things that you were looking at when you were younger and you were seeing as being kind of celebrated or normal or whatever, like certain body types. So but anyway, going back to from my own experience, it would just be the absolute like obsession with diets and diet clubs and, you know, kind of low fat everything, which then made everything higher sugar, so it was not actually good for you. And the way how women's magazines especially would well, there was the glossy magazines, which obviously would have had an impact, but I think also like the ones that were more kind of insidious about it might have been like Woman's Own or Bella or those things which like maybe your mums would have bought, and they'd always have some kind of diet in there or some story of a woman who'd lost weight, and it just kind of was just so part of the culture, like to kind of women were supposed to be on diets all the time to try to get thinner. And yeah, and if you lost some weight, you'd be celebrated, and if you put weight on, you would kind of be like frowned upon. So it was just everywhere. And obviously, as a diarist, I've got all this sort of record of the things I was writing about in my diaries at that time. And I was starting from like the age of 11, sort of talking about what I was eating, kind of doing like food plans, exercise plans, and just really feeling like I needed to change myself at like an age when I shouldn't have really been thinking about that. And I think I was quite lucky in that my mum was supportive, and she always sort of like told me that I was lovely as I was, but she didn't think that about herself. And I think like that's another key sort of area of it, is that we soak up what's around us, don't we? And I kind of knew that my mum thought that she wasn't the right shape, so it kind of fed into how I felt about myself, and then how my friends felt about themselves, and it was just kind of a whole thing, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think a great choice, and I can really picture the word diet on just every magazine cover back then in a way that I assume, I'm not sure because I don't really look at magazines very much these days, but I assume that is not the case now, that it's that prevalent.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely like more awareness around it now, and that, you know, I've heard like some younger people like saying, oh, they can't quite believe the messaging when they see it now, and they see like the way how like Renée Zellweger, when she was in Bridget Jones, was kind of seen to be like overweight in that role, and Kate Winslet in Titanic she was apparently overweight in that role. You know, kind of the things that we just took to be normal, I guess, about how we viewed like what big or small or whatever was, like the way how we looked at it was so different, I think, to how we look at it now. And there's definitely a lot more awareness and a lot more I think different bodies and stuff being shown in the media, but then also we get Instagrammable kind of makeup and bodies and contouring and all of that stuff, which is, so it's probably a bit of everything, I think. I don't think it's sorted. I think it's just a little bit different, and maybe more intense as well, or a different kind of intense for like people growing up now. But I have a bit of a diary extract on this if you want it.
Definitely, yeah.
Yes, please.
This is from my little diary from 1992, which has this as brilliant. Look, I don't know if it's reversed for you guys, if you can see it or not, but look, worst year of life, age 11, like quite dramatic already.
Oh dear.
Yeah. And so I thought it would be good to find like maybe the earliest mention of this stuff in a diary. So because this is pretty much my first diary, it didn't take me that long to find it. On the 7th of July, 1992. So I was 11 and a couple of months. This is what I'm saying. So if you think about it, July, I'm about to go to secondary school in September. So I'm kind of, that's what's on my mind. So this is what I say. I feel so scared about going to the comprehensive school because people will pick on me because I'm nearly 8 stone. I've really got to work hard now, or all I get is fatty. That's the only thing I'm scared of. So, you know, like it's too sad, isn't it, at the age of 11 to sort of be thinking about that and kind of being worried, you know, about this big change that everybody's going through when you go to secondary school. You guys have talked about it on the podcast, of course. But just to have that like anxiety that, you know, that what's going to be the thing that you're going to get taunted for or like teased for, and I'm sure everybody's got them in a different way, but that was the one for me. So yeah. So I think definitely as I've gotten older, it's something that I've come away from, this idea of like thin equals better, and losing weight is kind of what makes you worthy or gets you compliments and so on. But it is still a process, because I just think it's so ingrained in society and in how we feel about ourselves that it's it's a bit of a journey, but one that I'm glad to be on and to be out, I would say, mostly out the other side of.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, we are more than happy to leave that in the 90s where it belongs, because we do not want that in the present day. So yes, it's consigned to history where it
Absolutely.
belongs. Right, 2 more choices left then, Teresa. What is the penultimate thing you want to bring back from the 90s?
Okay, so disposable cameras, or not necessarily disposable ones, but just cameras or taking photographs in the way that we took photographs back then, I guess, because now it's so easy to have, you've got your phone in your pocket and, take a snapshot of anything, turn it onto the mirror or the selfie thing and look at yourself and go, or whatever it is that you kind of do. Just have a check. But, it's just always there as like the option to look at ourselves and scrutinize ourselves. And then maybe it ties in a little bit with the last sort of topic we were talking about how we feel about ourselves as well. But rather than going down that route, I think it's just more that it was just fun having a disposable camera and having only 24 chances to take a picture and not knowing how they were going to come out, and then going through the process of getting them developed, which I think the ones I used to get were like, they had like included in the price, they had like a 1 hour processing thing. So you could like take it into town, take it to Max Spielman, the shop was called, and they do an hour processing on it. So it wasn't like you had to send away and, get your film back and so on, or get your photos back. You could just do it in an afternoon. But it was always really exciting to see how those 24 photographs had turned out, and how many, probably only 3 or 4 of them would have like the ones that you would want to keep. But at least you weren't checking and trying and redoing and, having to pose endlessly kind of for pictures. It was just snapshot of this, snapshot of that, and see how it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
That would absolutely be on my list of things I'd like to bring back from the 90s, is that feeling of getting the photos back from Boots or wherever it is and looking through them for the first time, that excitement and the way you valued those photos. I really miss that. I think that was, such a joy, and it's a shame. And, I mean, we do have great cameras on our phones now, but I never take any pictures unless it's of something very specific that's happening. I don't take pictures of just life, day to day, or pictures of friends when we're out, and that always frustrates me. Like you say, with a disposable camera, you put the effort in, and you wanted to record things. I've got some photos that I took of some. I think it was my GCSE ball at school, and I'm just really, really glad that I've got them, and I wish I had more photos from school.
Yeah, this is definitely something I can get behind. I think my parents might even still have a couple of old films from a proper camera that they never bothered getting developed, and they've been in their kitchen cupboard for sort of 25 or 30 years. And every time I see them, I keep thinking I need to grab those and find out what's on them. But then I don't even know, these days, would you have to find someone on the internet and then post the films off to them? I suppose there'd be nowhere left on the high street that does it. I can't take them to Boots anymore, surely. I'll report back on that. But and again, the other thing about photographs being valuable if you had a film or a disposable camera, I remember being on holiday with my parents and my grandparents in Spain circa 96, and getting my granddad's camera and taking a photograph of him in the hotel room that he'd warned me not to take because he didn't want there to be a wasted exposure on the film. And there's a photo of him shouting at me, which I've taken. It must be around somewhere. I'd love to see that again. I think my parents must still have it. But
so he's like in mid.
He's in midpoint. Yeah. I can picture it now. I can see it.
Yeah, and before like the term selfie was a thing as well, meant anything, like it, I actually did try to take a selfie of me and Howard Donald. The poster of Howard Donald that I had on my bedroom, which I've still got, and I'll dig it out for like when the podcast goes out. But it's I had like a big poster of Howard Donald on the back of my bedroom door, so I've got my camera obviously and done the whole like that. And then when it came out, there's just like a reflection bouncing off of his forehead, because obviously it's like a glossy poster. So it's like, there's no fooling anyone that was like a real snapshot with Howard. But yeah, that was.
Is this dreadlock Howard or more clean cut Howard?
It was more clean cut Howard. He had sort of hair just sort of above his ears.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know the one. Yeah.
You know the era.
I know the era, the Howard Donald era we're talking about. Yes, exactly.
Yes, yeah.
Man goes to get old films developed from his parents' house from 25 years in the past. It does sound like the premise of a new 15-part true crime podcast on Acast coming out soon.
Well, I was thinking it sounds more like the kind of link you see at the bottom of a local newspaper article. And you won't believe what he found on the film.
Yeah, you won't believe.
Yeah.
Next to something about foot fungus and another one about...
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Right, the time has come for your final choice then, Teresa. What is the last thing you want to bring back from the 90s?
I'd like to bring back mixtapes, although we didn't ever call them mixtapes. I think that's quite an American version of the thing. We just called them compilation tapes. I think that was it, compilation tape. So what I mean by that is a cassette, usually CDs like later on in the noughties, but a cassette that you've made specifically for yourself or for somebody else, with a playlist of songs that I guess that means something to you, that you want to share, that you really like. And it's probably that's the reason why it'd be great to bring them back, or the reason why it's interesting to look back. Because if you put a song on a mixtape, or you made a mixtape for somebody, yeah, those songs were important, and maybe the whole message of what you were sending to them was important, and it was heavily curated. And I know we can make like massive playlists now very easily, just right click, add to something. But back then, like, I think there was like a level of creativity and sometimes like artistry if somebody like designed you a cover as well to go with it, or decorated the tape even. That I think there was like a bonding experience that kind of cultivated that we don't have now.
Definitely. I was a big fan of the compilation tapes. I had Alex's Greatest Hits Volume 1, which was followed by Alex's Greatest Hits Volume 2 several years later. And then I think I really got into it actually just after the turn of the millennium, and had like a new metal one, a hip hop one, a pop one, I think. And yeah, I was all over that. So definitely in favour of this choice. Stu, you must have been as well. You're a
definitely
big music guy.
Yeah, I used to make them for my dad's car, basically. So for the aforementioned non-league football trips, I would make tapes every few weeks to go in the Cavalier or the Mondeo, any saloon you might care to mention. I've made a mixtape for it. But one that I thought of specifically isn't a mixtape that had music on it, but I can picture the actual cassette vividly. It was a Sony tape, like 90-minute tape, and I had inherited a tape player that was a single deck tape player, one of those ones that had the deck, the speaker, and a built-in microphone on it, a sort of oblong type thing.
Yeah.
I'd inherited it from a family member or somewhere, and I had this Sony tape, and me and my friend Matt Coe just filled the whole tape, like recording ourselves. We'd interviewed my parents, we interviewed his parents, other friends that came round. Loads and loads of voices on this tape. And probably more than anything else from the 90s that I don't have anymore, I wish I still had that tape. My God, I wish I still had that tape. I would love to hear it now and hear the sort of things that we were talking about, and just what our voices sounded like, and the voices of our parents. And there's probably people on there from our respective families who maybe aren't with us anymore as well, and that would have been such a valuable artifact. And yeah, it just got lost in the sands of time. I'm not sure where it is, but yeah, that's one tape that I remember making and enjoying the process of doing it and speaking into the microphone and going back and recording over bits if you weren't too happy with it, like we do now. Exactly like we do now.
Oh, so it's like a podcast. It's like your first podcast.
I suppose so, yeah. Maybe it was in the blood always. But and I have to say, fewer technical difficulties with a single deck cassette player as well.
I think that's the next step then.
Yeah, possibly. Taking this project right back to the 90s, yeah. Posting out cassette tapes to listeners. I'm all for it.
Do you remember in Home Alone 2? Do you remember that Macaulay Culkin ran around with
the Talk Boy?
Talk Boy, yeah. I had a Talk Boy.
Wow.
I got one for Christmas one year, and it was so exciting just to be able to kind of just go around and record and interview and they kind of have that device to do that on. Now, again, these things in our pockets, we can do voice memos and we do that all the time. But just how exciting that was back then was like...
I remember I had a Talkboy watch, again, for Christmas it must have been, and it had 3 different recording spaces on it, but you could only record for 10 seconds each. You would hold the button down, hold the number 1 button down, and then it would record until you took your button off or the 10 seconds was up. And then that's the way you would overwrite it as well. So, yeah.
Right. Can you remember any of the stuff that you recorded on that?
I remember...
Like phrases or something?
There's 2 things. I remember recording 10 seconds of a song called These Are the Times by an R&B group called Drew Hill. I don't know if you remember that song, but I held the watch up to the radio and just recorded it. It might have been a test. It might have been just to see what happened. And then it must have been that Christmas. There used to be a TV show I don't know if they did it at other times of the year, but do you remember before they were famous with Angus Deaton? That used to be on at Christmas every year, and they would dig out, clips of people who were famous now. But I'm mansplaining the title of the program to you, aren't I? But
I think Jerry Halliwell doing some kind of game show in your
yes,
kind of what it's making me think of.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, and Nick Hancock appearing in a series of adverts for some beer that was only available in Jersey.
Right.
But I remember looking forward to this program being on, and then I was like counting down. So, say there was like 40 minutes to go, I'd hold the button down and go, and there's now 40 minutes to go until Before They Were Famous comes on BBC One. And then I was doing it every 10 minutes until it came on. So those are the 2 things that I remember using the
just for yourself, like
just for myself,
to announce it to yourself. Okay.
Yeah. I was a very lonely child.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
If we could dig them out, they'd make great. We could use them for the podcast if you can dig them out.
Yeah,
just little.
Yeah, like the little in-betweeny bits.
Yeah.
If I ever find that cassette tape or that watch, then I will, of course. The first thing I do is digitize the contents, and we'll play them on the podcast, of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll make it my mission from now on to see if I can track those 2 items down.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Cool. I haven't got any mixtapes left over from the 90s, but I've got a playlist of 12 tracks. If you want me to read them out to you, we can make it into a quiz to end with if you like.
Yes, please.
Which might be easier than the quiz that you did on your own.
Most definitely.
So I don't know how you want to do it. Do you want to I thought, I'll read the song titles, and you can kind of say who the artist or band was, if you like.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the first song, Good Enough.
Oh, I think I know.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think it's Dodgy.
Dodgy is who I've got. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, second track, Love Fool.
Oh, it's a classic. Stone Cold. Do you know it, Stu? You know, right?
I'll let you have the honour here, Alex, because I know you're such a big fan.
It's the Cardigans.
Yes. Yeah. Track 3 is called Rush Hour.
Oh, I don't know that one.
I think it was a member of the Go-Go's, and I think her name is Jane Weedlin, something like that. Or have I got this mixed up with something else?
No, I think probably what you've done there, Stu, is you've gone for the original, but this was a cover.
Ah.
So you get an extra point probably for that, because
I'll take it.
Cleverer. but in the 90s there was a cover of it by a band, and they didn't really go on to do great things, but I really liked the cover of that song, so you probably won't know it. But they were called Joyrider.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, right.
All right, track 4. There's no way that you're going to get this. Really little known track called Mbop.
I always thought the follow-up, "Where's the Love," was a much better track, actually.
Oh, really?
That is those lovely American brothers, Hanson, of course.
Okay, the next track is called "Oh Yeah."
Oh, Ash. Oh yeah, she was taking me over. Yeah, of course.
That's the one. Okay, another one that I'm sure you'll get is "Born Slippy."
Underworld.
Yeah. A bit trickier, "I'm a Believer."
Oh. See, I know that there was a version of it, but this was a couple of years before, but I don't know who would have done it. I know that EMF and Reeves and Mortimer did it. That is it? Oh, yeah. Cool.
Lucky You.
Lightning
Nine
Seeds.
Seeds.
Yeah. This Summer.
Might need a clue for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were a band that were actually probably bigger in, I think, the 70s, but they had like a kind of resurgence with this song in the 90s. I mean, I can't remember what their most sort of famous track in the 70s was.
I don't think I'm going to get it.
No, go on, you have to tell us.
Squeeze, if you know.
Oh, okay. Right.
Australia.
That's the Manics.
Yeah. And then finally, Breathe.
Prodigy.
Yes. There you go.
I don't think we did too
bad.
badly there, did we?
Yeah.
You did really well. Yeah, I thought you would. Yeah, I thought you guys would be good at that. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, there's some fantastic choices there, Teresa. All of them. I would happily see those 5 things back again. And of course, Diet Culture left back in the 90s. So thank you so much for coming on and giving that new format a go. And I think proving that it works. Don't you think, Stu?
Yeah, definitely. I think we can have some more guests, some more returning guests, maybe people we've had on before that we like to have on again, telling us what they want to keep and what they want to banish. So, yeah, definitely. Teresa, it's always a pleasure to have you on. And yeah, please come back again as soon as you can.
Thank you.
Before you go, Teresa, could you just tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find your Teenage Diaries and your zines?
Yes, yeah, of course. So, yeah, I run a project online where I'm revisiting my teenage diaries from the 90s with like present day reflections and thoughts about what I'm finding and discovering in those diaries, and that's on Substack, and the address is teenagediaries.substack.com. And if you go there, you can subscribe for free and you get all the future issues in your inbox, or you can just read the archive of sort of posts and stuff that are on there with loads of embarrassing, wonderful extracts from my teenage diaries. And then I also make zines, and they are on Etsy at teresawrites.etsy.com.
Awesome. We will put a link in the episode description below so you can log on and find those things, because they are, well worth the time, because they're fantastic. So go and have a look. Yes, thank you again, Teresa. That was amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'm sure you'll be back some point in the future, and we look forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Oh, that was brilliant, and we couldn't ask for a better guest to kick it off. Our friend and official diarist of the pod, Teresa, is always extremely good value when she comes on. She's always got some excellent things to share, and I always really look forward to and enjoy talking to her. So yeah, I really love that one.
Definitely, yeah. If you have any thoughts, having heard that episode, about things you would like to bring back for your time capsule, or things you'd like to leave in the 90s, or any thoughts on anything else you've heard in this or previous episodes, do get in touch using our link tree, which is linked to below. We would love to hear from you.
There is something in the fire. All being well, we will have a very interesting guest for you next time, who is linked to one of the TV shows I discussed in our Forgotten TV episode way back when. So if you want to get a little clue as to who that might be, then go back and listen to that episode. But yeah, all being well, we're going to have some fantastic insight into one of those TV series from years gone by.
But until then, we are all wrapped up here. So it just remains for me to say goodbye. I am just off to find out what was on those mystery films in Stu's parents' house.
And it's goodbye from me, because it's 10 minutes until Before They Were Famous is broadcast on BBC One.
Goodbye.
Bye for now.
Yeah, before we got like two down. Bleh, bleh. You cut that out. I just lost where I was going.
That's going in at the end.